Good morning. Good to see everybody. Welcome to today's meeting of the Education and Culture Committee. We have two very, very important items on our agenda today, which are one of the best things we get to do to talk about our spaces that serve our students and our families and our broader community. So we're going to talk about the appropriation for the rehabilitation and renovation of Noyes Library for young children. And this has been something that's been ongoing for a long time. As our new director, I'm sure has become quite aware. But it's more than a facility update, and my council member who lives in Kensington knows that this is an institution that's been really a cornerstone of early literacy in our community for generations, and it's really a beloved space. And I've taken my kids there. People come from all across the county to be a part of this institution. So we'll look forward to getting into that. And then we're going to talk about the CIP for MCPS, including a supplemental appropriation for Burtonsville Elementary School, which is another very, very important project. So we have a full agenda of how we invest in our places and spaces to help our young people in our community thrive. So it's going to be great. Welcome to Councilmember Friedson, who's here with us, and my colleagues, obviously, Councilmember Alvarez and Mink. So with that, Mr. Ambinder, do you want to lead us into the packet and introduce our guests?
Sure. Good morning. I'll note to begin, we have with us Director Graham from MCPL, as well as members of her team, Assistant Director Hawes, Assistant Director Kapani, as well as Ms. Lambert from OMB and Mr. Assant from the Department of General Services. This item is to discuss the County Executive's recommended CIP amendment for the Noyes Library, as well as the corresponding supplemental appropriation. I'll note for the committee, the executive has made a number of other recommended amendments to this library CIP, and those will be considered in a few weeks. The committee is considering this one because there's an attendance supplemental appropriation, so there's a little bit more time sensitivity to this item. For the Noyes Library, this project would provide for the rehabilitation and renovation of the library, including changes to make the building compliant with ADA, and the rehabilitated facility would be able to accommodate more attendees and more types of programming and services than are possible in the current building. The executive has recommended for this project an increase of $3.081 million over 6 years. That's an 87% increase over the 6-year period from the approved CIP, which reflects a new construction bid with corresponding increased project costs. And there's also an attendant 1-year delay in project completion, with project completion now scheduled for the end of FY26. The funding, the $3.081 million in funding, would be divided with $1.081 million in GEO bonds, $1 million in federal funding, and $1 million in private contributions from the Noyes Children's Library Foundation. The corresponding supplemental appropriation, which is in your packet, addresses the majority of that funding. That would be $3 million, with $1 million from each of those funding sources, and the remaining $81,000 in GEO bonds would be appropriated at a later date in a later year. Just as a reminder for the committee, this item was discussed last year during the discussion of what became the approved FY25 to 30 CIP, and at that time the committee discussed the need to ultimately rebid this project a second time, as the initial costs for the rebid were prohibitively expensive for this project. So at this point the second rebid has been completed, which has resulted in the county executive's recommended amendment that you see before you and corresponding supplemental appropriation. I will note as well, the committee should have the letter of support that was sent to Council President Stewart from the District 18 state delegation in support of this project as well. And with that, I'll just note Council staff recommends approval of this amendment, and corresponding supplemental appropriation is recommended by the executive, but happy to answer any questions or turn it over to our guests from libraries.
Thank you so much. Why don't we start with our do you have a preference, the libraries or Mr. Assant? Do you, either way? Let's go with our great new library director. Welcome. I think this might be your first time at the committee.
Good morning, and thank you for having us. As you mentioned, I just arrived, and am very familiar with the Noise Project, and I know it's been many, many years that we've been trying to get this new project and move that project forward. I would just like to advocate on behalf of public libraries for the importance of this children's library branch and what it serves in the community, and what it also and how we support our schools in early literacy and early education. While we are aware that over the years, I'm sure everyone would agree, not just inflation, the cost of materials has really escalated the cost, but it doesn't underscore the importance of the project. So if there's anything that I can do other than advocate for the importance of providing our communities with resources and access to information, and how that is absolutely desperately needed, especially at a time like this when there's so much change in our world and our society. When we have MCPS and the way we score during the Maryland Report Card, and how we know literacy, and especially early literacy, is important that we continue to maintain our students and support our families in a way that we can move Montgomery County forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Asante, let's talk about anything you want to add, but also if you could just talk about the lessons learned from the cost escalations here, and how we're going to make sure that doesn't happen after we do this.
Well, I'll provide the update first, because that's the good news.
Yes. Yeah, let's start with that.
Good morning, Greg Ossent, Department of General Services. So just to update you on our process, concurrently we are wrapping up final negotiations with the selected contractor. So assuming approval of this supplemental, we'll be ready to lock in both price and schedule. So I don't have any definitive schedule for you today, but we are cautiously optimistic that we will begin construction this summer. And so we appreciate Mr. Anbinder's note that we are working on an expedited schedule. This is a long time in the wait, and so we are ready to go, and we will do our best to get started right away. And of course, that impacts library operations. We're working closely with the director and her team. In terms of the escalation and the cost increase, I would note that this project has been an open CIP project for at least 10 years that I can recall. And so as the project has waited for additional funding and funding partnership with the Noise Library Foundation, it's a very straightforward for us in that the original cost estimates were not escalated while we were waiting, and so as this has lagged from year to year to year, we've not rebid the project. We've not we've provided new cost estimates, but the actual CIP project was not escalated along the way, and so you're getting a big balloon payment of the actual cost of the project several years later, and that is the 87% increase that you're reviewing now. And that is something that we see in a lot of projects that are on the books for lengthy points of time. White Flint Fire Station is a good example where that has gone up significantly just for the sheer fact that it's been on the books for so many years. But all that said, we hope to gain approval of this supplemental and move the project forward and get underway.
Appreciate that. You mentioned summer, and how long do you expect? Again, I know.
So the completion date, I believe, is in the packet. I think we will finish next year. I think we're looking at an 18-month construction schedule. But again, I want to be as cautious as possible. We are still negotiating the schedule with the general contractor, and so as soon as we have a definitive schedule from the GC, we will provide that to council staff and the committee so that you have that. And then, of course, because it impacts operations, there will be a lot of coordination between DGS, MCPL, and the public about impacts to the library operations, their staff, and when they're going to reopen. So just as we do with our rec centers and our other libraries for refurbishment programs, we'll follow the same protocols.
Appreciate that. And Mr. Anbinder and DGS, if we're able to have that information before we end our CIP discussion, would love to bring that and put that on the record. So that would be, if it's that, sounds like it's that close. All right, let me turn first to our lead for libraries, Councilmember Mink, and then we'll work our way down.
Thank you. All right, this is exciting. Of course, I want to see this passed through, and I really want to appreciate the community that have been such great advocates for this project for a long time, and that's reflected, of course, not just in our email inboxes, but also in the fundraising that has been done to support this project. There's never going to be a more cost-effective time to close this gap. 2/3 of the need here is covered between federal funding and then 1/3 with the community fundraising. And so the county bonds is just 1/3 of this difference here. So really want to appreciate everybody who's been working to make that possible for us, to lower the fiscal impact for us. I do think that we need to move this through. Obviously, with what we're anticipating with inflation on the horizon, that gap is only going to get wider. So it's important that we move on this right now. So I look forward to voting this through. And I also want to give a shout out to Council President Kate Stewart, of course, who has also been a big advocate of this project. Thanks.
Absolutely. Councilmember Albanese.
Thank you. That was a great segue. So I know for a fact that there are people on the Noyes Foundations whose kids are now in college and who have long ago aged out from being participants of this wonderful facility, but I know remain steadfast. And it's an interesting model when it was first developed, encouraging the community. And it was initiated in part because this was initiated on sort of on the heel end of the recession when we did not have a lot of capital dollars, but the community stepped up in a very significant way. And I really do want to also express my thanks to my colleagues on the council. Councilmember Jawanda was lead for libraries in our previous term and was steadfast and committed to this project. Councilmember Friedson represented this district and made this a very high priority. And now Council President Stewart and Councilmember Mink have taken the torch and helped make sure that we are close to the goal line. We're not quite there, but we're about to be there, which is fantastic news. But I think among the lessons learned moving forward are ensuring as best we can communication, particularly with stakeholders who are on the ground, as things change, keeping people updated in real time, because understandably this has caused a lot of frustration, consternation, anxiety for people who've dedicated a lot of personal time to this. And so I think that for me is one of the big takeaways moving forward. And I also finally want to thank our colleagues in the delegation from District 18 who have also remained very committed to this project and have helped it get over the goal line as well. So look forward to voting for this and moving it forward.
Thank you, Councilmember Albanese. Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to colleagues. I'll echo and reiterate everything that's been said and thank colleagues for all of their work and advocacy. Thank in particular the District 18 delegation. I've been working very closely with them from last term on this project. It's a project that's received a lot of state funding as well as county funding as well as the local philanthropic support, and really do appreciate and reiterate everybody who's here who's been advocating for this, as well as Council President Stewart as council member and now as Council President who's been advocating this as the district council member. There'll be a theme today of projects that were in my previous district in the first term that still have an impact on the district that I continue to represent but are no longer physically in my current district, and seeing some of these projects come to fruition. I did want to reiterate with the thanks and the gratitude and the excitement about where we are now that the communication hasn't always been particularly good here, and I think we do need to acknowledge that, and I think that's the area for improvement and the real opportunity. We have asked community members, as has been noted multiple times, to do a lot, to give a tremendous amount of time, to give significant amount of funds, to be deeply committed to what is such an important priority of all of ours, early childhood literacy, which is so critical. And this is just such a unique asset for Montgomery County, for our community, for the region even. And there have been times where the foundation board, where community members have felt shut out. There have been times where they have been the last to learn of information. There's been times where even the council has felt in a similar way, as well as the delegation. And I know there's a commitment for that to change. I appreciate that. I hope we have turned the corner on that. I think today is part of the turning the corner on that, but I did just want to reiterate how important it is, particularly with our partners in Annapolis, with the council and the executive branch working together, with individual departments within the executive branch working together, and most importantly, collaborating, coordinating, communicating with the stakeholders involved. I always say, control what you can control and over-communicate what you can't control. There are certain aspects of this that we can't control. There are a lot of aspects of it that we can, and our willingness and commitment to communicate is something that is absolutely always within our control, and I'm just very hopeful that one of the lessons learned is make sure that we're communicating early and often and consistently, and that is something that I hope will continue as we move forward. So appreciate it. I won't be voting today. If I could, I would, but look forward to voting for this at the full council, and really appreciate colleagues on the committee for allowing me to be here and all the work that's been done to get us to this point.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you joining, and want to appreciate also Ms. Graham for being here the first time. We'll see you again soon for projects. And as was said by colleagues, a big shout out to the foundation, the Noyes Library Foundation, who I know this has been a labor of love for many generations now, and you've raised a lot of money and a lot of spits and starts, but we're getting close. So we'll take up both items without objection and move it forward to full council, and look forward to getting an update, Mr. Assant, when you have one on the actual cost schedule. So thank you so much. All right. We will now move to our second item, which is the CIP amendments for MCPS. And I see we have our superintendent here, so Dr. Taylor and his team, come on down, or up. And we have several members of the Board of Education here, including the President and Vice President, Ms. Yang, Ms. Grace Rivera-Oven, and I think I saw, there you go, and Ms. Laura Stewart. So thank you all. And I know there's others watching. I've had other board members say, we're watching. So for you, we acknowledge you too. Thank you. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Levchenko to probably kick us off today.
Just to note, we are taking up the amendments to the school's FY25 through 30 CIP. The way the calendar was listed, it looked like there were 16 items. Don't worry, they're all the same packet, so we're not going to keep you here for 5 hours. But with that said, we do have, I've got a presentation that walks through the packet, but before we do that, I think, I know MCPS wanted to provide some comments on their, their original request, sure, and their rationale for that. And we do have a few slides for that as well that I'll bring up first as they're introducing themselves.
Sounds good. So Dr. Taylor.
Thank you.
Yeah. Press your button there. We're in the old school.
Old school. I like it. Pleasure to be with you today. Thank you for having us to talk about this important issue. I will say that there are two things that as we get to know each other a little bit better, I think are important to know about me. One, my love of data to help us make better decisions. And two, my absolute hatred of surprises. And I will say that I'm delighted to share with you that even though there was one surprise that we had to contend with, that we did not want to pass that surprise on to council and to our funding partners, and we wanted to give you a CIP in your off year that was free from surprises and one that was predictable and that stuck to the bottom line of your already adopted CIP. That's not to say that we don't have a lot of needs. We do. And we absolutely look forward to using our facility condition index that we're in the process of going through this upcoming year to drive some recommendations to bring back to you next year. We definitely have some severe needs that we're going to need to address together. But in this off year, we wanted to honor the processes that were already in place, keep our big projects whole, and try to manage some of the issues that we saw internally before bringing it back to you for consideration. So with that, we do have a couple of issues that we want to bring to light today, show you how we address those issues and how we are proposing to solve those problems. Our Board of Education glad to see that they're well represented here today. Did a fantastic job of quizzing us and checking us and making sure that they could verify that what we were presenting was, in fact, what was our reality, and problem solving with us so that we could bring you an amended CIP that really did keep our projects whole and kept the train moving. So with that, I give you the much more talented and better looking Deputy Chief of Operations, soon to be our Chief Operating Officer, Adnan Mamoun, who will take you through a couple of details about what we have to offer in a very, very short slide presentation.
Appreciate it. And welcome back, Mr. Mamoun. You were in the hot seat by yourself last week or earlier this week. Yeah, so welcome back for your second time.
No, thank you. Good morning, Adnan Mamoun. And so we're, as Dr. Taylor has already said, this CIP is actually doesn't add anything to our ask from the previous, the major CIP we presented last year. So the overall ask remains $1.853 billion. And then we are asking for $21.6 million in additional local funding, and I'll touch on that a little bit, what that is for in the next slide. This is an off-year CIP amendments. We are keeping our major projects whole, as Dr. Taylor already mentioned, and then we also have some proposed funds reallocation to help offset the additional ask that we have for this year, and we have not added any more new major projects to this CIP request. So for the first issue was the $21.6 million additional ask for Woodward High School project, and it stemmed from an issue with the assumptions that was made with the eligibility of state aid. Originally, in the calculation, there was about $80 million that the state said could have been the maximum allocation received by MCPS for that project. That was based on certain assumptions. The project was bid in multiple phases and and awarded through multiple phases. And when the project was finally reviewed by the state, the project ended up getting a lower eligibility, meeting a lower eligibility criteria based on how the project was bid and awarded. That's where the $39.8 million difference is from the state aid originally assumed versus what we're currently are able to get from the state. So we have some, can you go to the next slide, please? Sorry. Yeah, so we have proposed some modifications from our current projects these are current fundings that are available on projects that was awarded to us in the past. These projects are already completed and there are remaining funds. So we're offering these remaining funds to help offset the $39.8 million gap. I'm just going to mention out there the project list that you see out there. These are all complete, and we're leaving enough funds to be able to close out these projects. So by asking to remove these funds, we're not going to affect any of the outcomes for the remainder of these projects. So in total, the total increases that we're asking for includes a $20 million ask for Crown High School and $5 million for Northwood. And then $28 million for finishing out the third phase of Woodward High School, and then one more HVAC project added to the CIP request for $4.5 million. That's for Loderman Middle School HVAC. And then we're asking to reallocate CIP funds from building modifications and program improvements. That's BIMPI, $4 million, and then early childhood centers. I also want to point out for the childhood center money that we're asking for a reduction. We're internally working for an overall plan for the early childhood centers. We're leaving enough funds for us to proceed with the existing Burdensville Elementary School, which is going to be converted to an early childhood center, which is going to be able to start that in August of 2026 when the new Burdensville Elementary School opens and that current one can open as our early childhood center. And then major capital projects elementary schools, these were planning and design funds that we're offering back because we're leaving enough money for planning. And Dr. Taylor has already talked about, we're doing some internal planning and we're doing feasibility studies for these projects. So we're going to be able to come back in our next CIP as with the proper budget and the timing for these elementary school projects. And then sustainability initiatives, we're offering $5 million for that initiative. I also want to reiterate that we're continuing with our current sustainability initiatives, and we're looking at the overall plan so that our long-term sustainability initiatives match with our, the county's goal of, the carbon, reducing the carbon emissions for our overall portfolio. So with that, leaves us with the $21.6 million ask that's in that CIP to help us offset that Woodward High School project that I mentioned earlier.
It's noteworthy to add that although we are not able to capture the $39.3 million in state aid for the Woodward project, that $39.3 million can be applied to other projects in the future. And so in the aggregate over time, it is actually not a loss to us, but we can access those build-to-learn funds down the road for other projects and making sure that we can apply that later. So it's a little bit of financial gymnastics that we're asking for an accommodation here, but this would help us conclude some of these major projects, and it is not actually a loss of state revenue. It's just a delayed gratification of state revenue, which is not as fulfilling.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. I was going to ask that question of, so people understood that you will still have access to that capacity, but it just not right now, and you need to move forward with the projects. Yes. I'll just ask one or two questions before we move on these what we just saw, and then if colleagues have questions, please let me know. If we could go back to the slide, right here. So, explain, if you're a layperson here, you might see this and say, okay, this is money you're giving back. Well, why did we overestimate so much? And can you answer that question for us and for the public?
I actually have to give a lot of praise to our facilities team for this, because when scoping out a project, you do have to plan, and it is usually a contractual requirement that there be some contingency for things that happen in a construction process. That is a normal part of it, and actually most people won't bid on a project unless it has a contingency, because they want to make sure that their bills can be paid if they're going to help support construction or design costs or any of those things. So it is natural, and it is actually appropriate and something that we should expect, that our projects do have a fund balance at the end of the project when it's complete. To the extent that there are fewer change orders, to the extent that there are fewer dramatic moments in the construction phase, you will have a bigger fund balance for each of these projects. So this is a part of the natural cause of action when we do any kind of project, that we should have a little bit left over at the end of that project because it was that unused contingency, or there was an efficiency that was found in the construction, or there were a part of the project that there was a change order made that actually generated a savings. So knowing that the projects were complete, that they've reached substantial completion, that there is sufficient fund balance in each of those journal entries for each of those projects to finish out any things that's left on the punch list, to know that there are savings left over. It's natural to expect that, but it's also natural for our funding partners to apply those funds to another project afterwards.
Really appreciate that. You nailed it as usual. This is actually a good thing. Yeah. And given our last conversation, a lot of times we're here talking about cost overruns, and so this is the reverse of that. So
it's a very different conversation if these are negative numbers.
Exactly. So and appreciate that. I'll turn to colleagues on the committee first if they have any questions on these. Okay, I'll go straight to Councilman Friesen. Yeah. Or did you have a?
You can go back to me.
Okay, I'll go. Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to thank you, so you can let me go first, which is good. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't happen often. No, I'm just kidding. First of all, thank you. Appreciate it. This is another example, Woodward High School, which certainly has a huge impact on my current district, used to be in my previous district. Appreciate the letter that Councilmember Mink and then Councilmember, now Council President Stewart, and I sent last year about making sure that that all of the facilities that are expected of the community are retained. I'm glad that we're moving forward in that direction. That was on the heels of my original request that happened a couple years before that, where that was the expectation that we had, that this was presented to the community as a way to alleviate concerns at Walter Johnson, which has huge capacity challenges and continues to face those issues, and it didn't seem fair or adequate to provide relief, but with facilities and amenities that were less than, and that set different expectations for those who would go to Woodward. That isn't happening. I'm glad that isn't happening. I'm glad the scope change was made. I know that there are challenges in doing that. I know that there are choices that have to be made, but I think that ultimately was the right choice, and I really appreciate that, and I'm glad that the council rallied around that, and really appreciate colleagues for moving that direction. I'm not going to reiterate what happened. We're moving forward on the state funding dynamics, but ultimately I'm glad that that didn't result in a backtracking or a reneging on that commitment that was made, because it's so important to the community. So I just wanted to appreciate that. As we're moving forward next year into the full CIP, I do think it's important to start thinking about what we're actually going to do with the capacity dynamics and challenges with the high schools specifically, but there's also major impacts based on the high schools, on the elementary schools, because they have to feed from somewhere, and there are real challenges in the Walter Johnson cluster related to not just the high school but the elementary schools, and a real serious challenge that you have been trying to address, which I appreciate in creative ways with Bethesda Elementary School. So just wanted to see if I could hear from you on what the approach is going to be on addressing the Woodward, and how Woodward is going to alleviate capacity challenges, and what that approach is going to look like as we move forward. And then also on the Bethesda Elementary School, I just did want to say I appreciated the creativity of offering options to families. One of the concerns that I heard was not necessarily on the option that was provided, and transportation challenges and other reasons why families didn't take that up, but also on the communication to the receiving schools, because they heard secondhand that there were going to be changes, and there's the cluster capacity number, there's the school capacity number, and then there's the classroom by classroom capacity number. And for many families, the data that we're looking at school-wide or cluster-wide versus what they're facing and their children are facing and our educators are facing in an individual classroom is different. And so receiving information that there might be additional students coming to a second grade class, for instance, at a particular high school, was somewhat alarming, and how that would be handled and addressed. And I think that communication for the future could have been handled at a school by school basis a little bit better. Although I do again appreciate the willingness and interest to do that. So if you could just speak a little bit to how you expect to approach this this summer, as early as this summer for some of it, but really as we head into the broader CIP, I think it's important for us to be prepared and to start processing and thinking through what that's going to look like, because our decisions in this CIP, while more modest in terms of the council's decision points, will have an impact on what the future is. And I also just think it's important for families and for students and for educators to understand what the thought process is going to be, what the approach is going to be, and how the communication is going to work moving forward.
Well, I'd like to echo my gratitude on a couple of different fronts. First off, I want to thank the E&C committee in particular and the rest of council for being really good collaborative partners in trying to help us kind of brainstorm and problem solve some of these issues. Walter Johnson is not just one of the biggest high schools in Montgomery County, it's one of the biggest high schools in Maryland. As a matter of fact, we've got two of the biggest high schools in Maryland, Blair and Walter Johnson, and alleviating some of that pressure is a top priority, and we absolutely have to do it. The best way, most sustainable way that we can do that is undergo a boundary study where we're looking at not just programmatic equity and programmatic opportunities, but also the attendance zone boundaries and reshuffling that. This is a massive undertaking for the county. It will have a tremendous impact on our county, as up to 40% of families could have some sort of domino effect on where their high school boundary is, and it will be difficult for a lot of people to get their head wrapped around the idea of not being near the Crown or Woodward attendance zones and still having some sort of domino impact that impacts their attendance zone that they have kind of historically relied on for some time. The fall of 2027 should look very different than where we are today in terms of high school capacity. It will also drive what our capacity looks like as we reshuffle the deck a little bit in middle school, and ultimately in elementary school will have to come a little bit later as we see how this sort of shakes out. It does make sense for us to think through the secondary capacity first and then work our way backwards. But when we do have high growth areas like in Bethesda or North Bethesda and in some other parts of the county, we have to be sensitive to it. We need both short-term solutions and long-term solutions. Some of the short-term solutions that we're looking at look like modular classrooms and adding modular classrooms. As the Bethesda Elementary School community is well aware, this is not an overnight process. We cannot put a modular classroom in the school parking lot overnight and then it be set up and ready to go and meet code and get hooked up to PEPCO. It usually takes several months, almost half a year to do that well and within code. So we are planning for that right now in some of our really strained areas to look at that. We are also looking, as you mentioned earlier, in that creative approach of offering COSAs to families who want to access a different school that does have a lot of capacity. And ultimately, we're going to be having to look at boundaries, and we're going to have to look at attendance zones. It would be wonderful if the schools, when they were built, in the neighborhoods that they were built in, that everything stayed the same and there were predictable patterns year over year over year over year of students attending that school for centuries. The reality is it doesn't work that way. Neighborhoods have a life cycle. Attendance zones experience change. There's substantial building in dense urban areas like Bethesda, where Bethesda is not growing out, it is growing up, and that has implications as well that we have to be sensitive to and be really creative on how we serve in the short term and the long term. We are looking at that in the context of both the horizon that is with that elementary school, but also how that affects feeder patterns at the secondary level as well. It really does make sense for us to apply as many short-term solutions as we can until we've settled the secondary feeder pattern before addressing the boundary zones at the elementary level. There may be some tweak opportunities, but again, that's a very sensitive process. People make decisions about where they live, based on where they send their children to school sometimes. It's definitely a determining factor, and so we're sensitive to that too. One of the best things that we can do as a district to lessen the strain and anxiety that comes with boundary changes is exactly the core mission of the E&C committee, which is to make sure that every single school in MCPS offers a high quality education, so that making the adjustment from one school to the next school isn't a life-changing experience, isn't traumatic for kids, and that we really, no matter what our students are, where they go, and what doors they walk into, they get a high quality experience and are fully supported. So that's really what our work is ahead, and making sure that we can have creative short-term solutions as we address some of the bigger capacity issues. But we thank you for your partnership. We need it. We need the engagement and the support, and so far the folks that have connected with us and taken us up on some of our creative options, which has actually been very few, they appreciate the effort as well, and they see what we're trying to do. Although no one likes to be in a crowded classroom, we certainly don't like it, but we are trying to manage it with the resources that we have without stretching us too thin.
Appreciate that. I'll just reiterate, the PTAs are your friends here, and these are tough decisions that have to be made. There's some creative choices that you're making, which I appreciate your willingness to think differently about things, but new and different and creative also creates some angst and anxiety of understanding the what and the why, and just as much proactive communication early and often with families is critical as these decisions are being made. Not just the decision once it's made, but the approach and the way in which you're thinking about it and the timing of when the decisions are going to be made. It's really critical. It's understandable for families. I'm sitting here next to three people who know this all too well. It's understandable that not knowing is a level of deep anxiety when you're talking about your children. And so as much information as you can provide as early as you can provide it to set realistic expectations of when decisions are going to be made, how decisions are going to be made, and then ultimately what decision is being made, and getting as much stakeholder impact is just really important.
Absolutely, and I'll reconnect this back to the resource pipeline. Some of our capacity and some of our ability is tied to the resources. So some things are definitely on hold as we sort out what our resource availability is, and we are communicating with our families that once we have settled the resource question, we'll have a better understanding of what we can and can't do. I want to elevate one thing as we're talking about CIP and capacity issues, and this is really a precursor to some of the issues that we'll confront over the next several years. And again, this is in the vein of not creating any surprises. Adding modular classrooms is great, but it really does need to be a short-term solution, because one of the challenges with adding modular classrooms, we're not making the hallways bigger, we're not making the cafeterias bigger, we're not making the common spaces or playgrounds bigger. And so a school that is built for one capacity, even though we're adding modular classroom capacity space, we're not actually adding capacity to the facility. They still have to serve lunches, they still have to have assemblies, they still have to do some of the other more group-oriented activities that sometimes strains a building to a level of uncomfortability that I think sometimes gets underappreciated when we say, oh, we already added 5 classrooms through modular capacity. Yeah, we handled the classroom capacity issue, but not some of the other things that go into making school. We'll revisit that a bunch. And so as we're thinking both short-term and long-term, that's why modular classrooms really are very much a short-term strategy and not a long-term strategy.
Appreciate that. Appreciate the indulgence and appreciate the work of the committee, not just leading up to today, but last year in trying to set up a CIP and a capital budget that is a little bit clearer of what the future holds. So really appreciate a lot of hard work that has gotten us to this place. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we learned over the last several years that they're called learning cottages. But to your point, not a long-term solution. So really appreciate that, and I'm glad Councilman Friedson brought up in response to his question the boundary study. Obviously, the board is going to be knee-deep along with the community in that. You've just hired a contractor, is my understanding, for that process, so since we're on it, we've opened the can of worms. Can you just give a quick update on timeline for that process? Good job, good delegation.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yes, we, as you said, we did engage a consultant. We have started meeting with them, and then we will be starting to engage the community over the next couple of months, initially to go out to the communities to first inform, just letting everybody know that the boundary study is coming and what does the boundary study entail, what is it going to be, what is going to be the public's responsibility, how they can provide feedback and all of that. So those are the sessions we're hoping to start with in the next, I would say, couple of months. And then hopefully before the summer, we're going to be again going back to the communities and talking about different, boundary maps. Once our consultant has time to kind of start looking at the, board's policies regarding boundary studies and using the criteria to create some options, we're going to go back to the community and, presenting those, explaining, and then again, providing them with feedback, whether, opportunities for feedback, whether it's in person, walking up to a map, putting their hands on, trying to see where they, how their, current boundaries are going to be affected with the changes, and then also providing them opportunities to provide feedback through websites, surveys, and all of that. So that's what we're currently working on. We're going to be finalizing that engagement plan and providing it to the board in an upcoming meeting.
I appreciate that, yeah, and I think I know that a lot of the new members, I think the members here today weren't here, but they were involved in other capacities in 2019, when last time this happened, in the scope of the engagement, just to double tap that's going to be huge. You said 40% could be impacted. As I said, I think between our committee here, we've got 10 children. Most of whom are in MCPS, and so I think if we can put a point in time just to Mr. Prouty and to our team and to Mr. Levchenko, and once you brief the board, I'd love to get right after so we can continue to, especially on the engagement process, so we can be tied at the hip and help you amplify that information, because obviously it's going to be an important process. So, and look back to some of the challenges and successes of that last process, which I know you'll do, and how you design the engagement. So really appreciate that update. I think Councilmember Mink had something she wanted to raise, and then Keith, then we'll go right into your presentation.
Thanks. Okay. Well, since we already touched on, overcrowded cafeterias and common spaces, I don't want to hold us up from getting to Burtonsville Elementary School, but I will say I wanted to just touch briefly on the Northwood High School, the $5 million for the stadium, which includes an artificial turf field. And not going to get into the whole artificial, not artificial thing, but I will note that we have heard from a lot of athletes about even some of the newer fields at Einstein, Wheaton, et cetera, about their displeasure with those. And we do always hear from MCPS, like we have the newest and the best type of artificial field. But from some student athletes in particular, like top of the list, there being like soccer, football, the kids who are hitting the ground, there has not seemed to be an improvement in their experience in terms of it being hard, slippery, abrasive. There's a field in my district that Montgomery Parks is replacing now because it just failed, I think, a hardness test, an artificial field. And so they just underwent, just very recently, a very extensive research effort to find what is the best type of artificial field, turf field for that as well. And so what I would ask is that we tap into that knowledge, and I would like to understand what MCPS is planning to make sure that this field is as safe as it can possibly be for all of the student athletes, including the ones who are hitting the ground, and that we're looking for the best, not just in terms of environmental impact as best as can be possible there, but also in terms of safety and playability. So would love to attend or help help put together or whatever, but a meeting between MCPS and Parks, and hopefully, I don't want to hold things up. I'm assuming my colleagues don't want to hold things up, but at a future session when this comes up with council, it would be great to be able to understand, and for the public to be able to understand how this field is going to be different and better and safer than some of our other newer fields. Thanks.
Really good point. So let's make sure we come back to that. Councilor Alvarez has a brief note.
Won't go too deep into this topic, although I do feel pretty passionately about it. We do have a Montgomery County Sports Committee, so which is made up of a lot of the key stakeholders,
yes,
who represent a lot of these organizations, and they could be a tremendous asset in this conversation. And they're an official advisory capacity to the county. So I would just I'd like to be part of that too, and I would encourage us to make sure they're well represented in that work group.
Awesome, Mr. Levchenko.
All right, let me just bring up the slides real quick. There we go. All right. So we've already touched on a few items, and we'll see some of those come up again in the slides, but we won't have to maybe dwell on them as long. We'll try to get through as timely as we can. Now, what's going on? Oh, there we go. Okay, so these are some of the things we're going to talk about briefly before we actually get into some of the CIP amendments later. Some bigger picture items that I think are important for the committee to discuss. First, and you heard some discussion earlier about enrollment and capacity trends, and I don't intend to go through this slide number by number, certainly, but what I want to emphasize is that the projections over the last 5 years have changed dramatically in the school system in terms of enrollment going forward. And what you see in this is the greenish tint are the actual enrollment numbers, and the bluish tint are projections going forward. And the circled numbers at the bottom indicate the changes in the projections dating back to the FY21 through 26 approved CIP. So for example, for FY24, 5 years ago, we were looking at a projection of 171,000 students. Now the actual for that is 160,000 students. So big decreases assumed, even though the current projections still show a slight increase over the 6 years. The base is substantially lower than what it was 5 years ago. And yes, we had the pandemic impacts, but even over the last couple of years, we've seen a flattening, slight decline in enrollment. So that's just a cautionary note that, and this is of course looking countywide. You've heard some of the issues of, well, you got to dig and drill down to the school level and even the grade level of clusters to figure out what the solutions are to that. But what it does do is give us some caution going forward, especially when we're looking at projects with substantial capacity involved in them, and make sure we are allocating our resources in such a way that we are maximizing that benefit. So that's sort of just a cautionary point. And I also did want to note, as an addendum to the packet, the Planning Board had a discussion on this very topic a couple weeks ago, and the planning staff did a pretty deep dive into the enrollment and capacity there, and basically came to this conclusion that this may be a time to revisit some of the capacity assumptions that we've had for a number of years, where we always had steady growth, and that's required us to add substantial capacity. That capacity, that overutilization bump started at the elementary school level many years ago, and it sort of pushed its way through the middle and high school levels. We are now seeing pretty dramatic changes at the elementary level, flattening at the middle level. The high schools are still seeing some significant capacity issues, but that is working its way through the system. And that's because a lot of the external factors like birth rates have sort of plateaued and even gone down a little bit. In-migration, out-migration is that level of net within the system is not there either. So this is what we get. We get these changes in projections. So that's just big picture going forward. We actually don't have much in the way of capacity projects that aren't already under construction and committed. There is one project I note in the packet, which is Highland View Elementary School, which is scheduled to be have its bid awarded perhaps later this fall. And that does have a capacity element to it, of course, as an addition project, although it has a number of other components to it for that school as well. So that's an example where maybe the capacity element of that project can be looked at closer before that bid goes out to see what do we think we need to do there, what are some options going forward. But with a lot of the other projects, we don't have a lot teed up for capacity that's not already moving forward. We talked about Crown, Northwood, and Woodward. There's not a lot of other projects that finished up, but we don't have a lot teed up. And that's because last year, the committee recommended and the council supported focusing a lot on infrastructure and systemic work. And we added a lot to the CIP, especially in the out years, for HVAC, roofs, sustainability, building program improvements, things like that. And some of the capacity projects that had been requested were pushed back because we couldn't do it all. So that does give us some time to look at this. So just a cautionary note going forward.
Yeah, thank you, Keith. I just want to pause for 1 second on that because you triggered something for me. You know, when you said Highland View, you know, I went to Oakview and they were very close. They were rivals. I got in a couple of disagreements with some kids from Highland View. So, but also I just want to allow Dr. Taylor and team to just speak broadly to this issue that you're raising using the projections. Obviously, I said yesterday we don't, you know, and I've been saying we don't know what the future is going to hold even this fall. You know, I suspect we'll see a bump in enrollment if these federal jobs keep getting cut. But again, we don't. You're right. You know, birth rates are down in the U.S. They're down in the Western world, right? So you know, so there's a lot of factors. So I just would love to. You mentioned this earlier, but this allow you a comment on as we move into the full CIP. And thank you for recognizing what we did at the committee and the council to focus on systemics. And thank Ms. McGuire for helping us along there. But how you see this going into and how you're going to be approaching these numbers as you head into your formulation, the board for the CIP next year.
I think if you look at just the numbers, it tells one aspect of the story. And if you look inside the schoolhouse, it tells you another aspect of the story. And if you walk down the streets in the neighborhood and you look up, left, right, down, it tells you another aspect of the story. I think that we really need to be looking at this through a multidimensional lens. If you look in the newspaper, you get a very different look at what the story looks like for our future. And truthfully, I'm not sure that forecasting out this many years is a good indication of where our future is going as a county, because I believe that there's a level of uncertainty that we need to be sensitive to. As I did mention earlier, if our neighborhood feeder patterns and our neighborhood boundaries stayed the same consistently year over year, that would be wonderful, and it would certainly make all of our lives a lot easier. The reality is that things change in terms of housing and where our children are at any one given moment, and the shifts that are being made. And the struggle really is, how do we create boundary zones that, one, make sense to the community, fulfill our policy commitments to the community, and making sure that we have thriving, diverse schools. And that's not particularly easy, and it's not necessarily something that can be done just looking at a spreadsheet. And we have other operational considerations to be mindful of too. Things like transportation. Do we want to put kids on a bus for an hour and a half, or do we want to put kids on a bus for a shorter period of time than that? So those are some of the things that we think about and that we're trying to factor as we do forecast out what makes sense in the long term. There are definitely some pain points. There are definitely some points where we feel like we could level out capacity a little bit. But there are also some things that we are sensitive to in terms of the services that we offer. When a schoolhouse is built in nice, neat blocks of classrooms that have 25 students in every classroom, that looks great on a spreadsheet and it looks great on paper, and the design capacity of a school looks like it can hold a lot more students than it really can, until you look in the hallways and see that the hallways can't contain that capacity, and until you look in the classrooms themselves and say that that classroom that is built to hold 25 students is actually a classroom that serves students with disabilities. And so the program capacity of that school then changes a little bit to reflect what the actual needs of the students who walk through the front door of that school really are. And we have to be sensitive to that as well. So when we are looking at these things and these projections, this is helpful. This is a great data point for us to start making some decisions. But it's one data point, and it's not the total picture. And that the total picture is much, much more dynamic than this. And it really is about the kids that are being served in the school, what we project over time in terms of their needs, and also where we see specific neighborhoods and specific feeder patterns going over time. So even though the enrollment may be flat, what we have experienced, and this is something that the council and this committee are going to confront in the operating budget, is that even though we have a flat line relative to our student population, our students with disabilities population has gone strikingly up. And as a result, the needs of that students with disability population, those needs have gone dramatically up. And so creating programming has constricted capacity dramatically in some pretty key areas. So those are some of the things that we're being sensitive to. We're grateful that this committee is sensitive to those as well, because it really will help us paint a clearer picture than just looking at the lens of this is what the numbers say, this is what live births say. That yes to that, but yes to these other things as well.
Really, really appreciate that. It's apropos. We just yesterday, or I know, and thanks to my colleagues, I know we've met almost every day this week as an ENC or HHS or Joint Committee. There's a lot to do, but we had a discussion, I think yesterday, about special education, all our vulnerable populations, special education, EML, our students with poverty, and how those numbers, and we had a pretty stark comparison of in just a couple years, thousands more students in those populations that require contained classrooms, more space, all the things you talked about. So when we come back to this, Mr. Levchenko, I think, when as we move into next year and have that discussion that we're going to need to have, I'm glad we'll make sure it has the full context and obviously an important data point, but as you said, there's other things to discuss as well. Really appreciate it. Mr. Levchenko, continue.
Actually, on that note, my next, you queued this up quite well. Another area we look at each year is the racial equity and social justice lens regarding operating budget, CIP. In the case of the CIP for schools, there is a lot of data that's collected. This summarizes, don't try to read those very small numbers there. Those are on the left side are the schools or the area or the school areas impacted by capital projects that are in the CIP. And then across the top, you have the demographic information, the racial ethnic information by school, also the farms rate, ELD and mobility rates, and then also if the school itself is categorized a certain way, whether it's a class size reduction school, Title I, that's also listed, or if it's an equity emphasis area, that's all listed there as well. So we've used this in the past and plan to use this type of information going forward. When we are getting to the final elements of decisions regarding schools and we have resource issues, how do we allocate that last set of dollars? Well, some of this information can be helpful in that regard. For today's purposes, we're not really focusing on trying to decide between different projects or how they rate in terms of these categories, but just to be aware that this information is there and can help provide additional context for decisions going forward. With that, I wanted to get into some of the numbers for the CIP that you have heard. First, this is just the 6-year totals, and as you heard from MCPS, their 6-year total is recommended to be the same. This is very unusual, to say the least. In past years, even in amendment years, we have had $80 million, $100 million increases sought, and that's required some significant reopening of the CIP, basically, not just in the schools, but across beyond schools in the CIP. And you may recall that in past years we have often done a non-recommended reductions process because the schools have come in with a request, the executive was not able to accommodate that request, and so we are left with an executive CIP that balances in theory, but that has a significant undesignated reduction assumed for the schools. And then our first approach at the committee level has been to ask MCPS how they would get to the executive level of funding. In this case, and we'll get to the here's the executive's numbers. With the executive's numbers in place, other than with technical adjustments we'll talk about, the executive is basically in line with the board's request. So that initial step or that first step of often having to do undesignated or non-recommended reductions is not needed this year. Now, that's not to say that we won't have to reconcile the CIP at the end and revisit some projects, but we're not having to do it up front to get us to a baseline that would be manageable.
Well, I'll just say I've been on this committee. This is my 7th year, and we've done it every year. So to not have to do it and ask for you to go back to have cuts, I appreciate you underscoring that that's a big deal.
Right. So we'll see how the broader CIP looks in terms of reconciliation. We have some issues there, but we're not starting with a gap within the MCPS CIP compared to the executive recommendation. You heard earlier the changes that the board is recommending. This just puts numbers to those by year. And, you can see Crown, Northwood, and Woodward. Those have the increases that you heard about. And then some of the offsetting decreases in building modifications. The major capital projects, you're seeing really more reductions in placeholders, not in actual changes in planned projects yet. You do see the increase in HVAC for the additional project at Loiterman that was mentioned earlier. The biggest decrease, though, is, as you heard, was in the early childhood centers, where they are revisiting some options for how they could meet those needs and the Blueprint for Maryland assessment. So that of course may come back next year in some form. So, but for now, we're seeing those reductions there to help offset. So I briefly mentioned the executive recommendation. On first blush, it looks a lot lower, and it is from the board's request. But these are all what we would call technical adjustments, reflecting how actual spending is occurring in projects, and in many cases, moving FY25 and FY26 previously shown expenditures into FY24 where the expenditures actually occurred. So the projects themselves are kept whole, but the 6-year total is reduced in the FY25 to 30 period. And this is something we rely on the Office of Management and Budget, working with MCPS, to give us the latest information on these projects in terms of how they impact the CIP. So that was used by the executive to not only balance the numbers, but reflect them accurately for where things stand, currently. The only other change, and this is something that we've seen in the past as well, there is an affordability reconciliation project. In the past, that has been a very, very large number, hence our need for the non-recommended reductions. This time around, it is a significantly smaller number. It reflects the reduced state aid that you heard about for Woodward High School. However, the executive has also increased the set-aside, the GEO-bond set-aside at the countywide level to accommodate that. We don't know the exact numbers yet. You heard there's still a lot of fluidity with the state aid request. But at this point in time, given the set-aside and the fairly low affordability reconciliation project, we're not counting that right now as a gap that we have to deal with. We will reassess that as we get closer to reconciliation, but that's not creating the gap that it would normally in more typical years.
Councilmember Alvarez has a comment or question.
Thank you. Just a broad question. I know on the operating side, we've tracked how much federal funding we get. Do we get any federal funding for capital, either directly or indirectly as a pass-through from the state?
So we typically do not. There are certain federal fundings that we are also, constantly review through grants. One of them would be the energy efficiency program for EV charging and all of that. We don't know what the state of that funding would be going forward, but we are obviously keeping track of those. Those are usually after the fact. You have to apply for it. Like if, a school had geothermal wells, once the system is in place and is in commission, we can go back and ask for the Energy Reduction Act, federal funds, but those come in as a grant. But otherwise, we don't actually have an automatic amount of money that comes from federal for capital projects.
That's good news. Another thing to track, sadly, is this is completely out of our control, but tariffs and some of the other measures that are being taken at the federal level are going to increase the cost of steel, are going to increase the cost of parts for HVAC equipment, and there's also going to be a personnel cost because it's going to be much harder a year and a half, 2 years from now to find workers on the ground because of what's transpiring with our immigration policy nationally. So we have to proceed. We have to hope for the best, prepare for the worst, but acknowledge and be open and upfront with our residents that we're at the mercy of this awful time that we are in, and may have to make adjustments as necessary, not just for MCPS capital projects, all capital projects.
Yes.
Very, very good and poignant and harrowing points.
Yeah, the one other project I wanted to note, you do see Burtonsville Elementary School replacement there, showing a $1.3 million increase. That is fully state aid related. And as we talked about earlier, there's a supplemental associated with that. So the committee's recommendation today also will include a recommendation on Burtonsville, and that will need to go back to the council quicker than the rest of this CIP will, which is effective July 1st. So there'll be two paths after today. One will be for the supplemental, one will be for all the other amendments. I think that with that, I did want to give OMB staff a chance to provide a couple of comments regarding the executive's approach regarding the MCPS CIP, and note also just from our staff's perspective that the alignment between the board and the executive this year at least makes our starting job a little bit easier.
Appreciate that, and let's have continued alignment, County Executive, as we head into the operating budget. I'll just put a plug for that. Ms. Jawa, good to see you. Please give us your update.
Okay. Good morning, Veronica Howard from the Office of Management and Budget. I just wanted to highlight that despite revenue changes and revenue reductions in important funding sources for the MCPS CIP, such as the school impact taxes and GEO bonds kept at $280 million a year, the county executive was able to fully fund the Board of Education request while keeping in the set-aside GEO bonds for the shortfall in Woodward as indicated by the staff. This was possible because the Board of Education request maintained the last approved CIP levels. And he made every effort to fully fund the project because of that. This is important because it is different than other years, and because if their request is within affordability, then the MCPS CIP can be fully funded. Next year, it could be different. If the request is not within our funding sources, we will likely need additional funding sources to fund MCPS CIP and to move forward any other priority for the county.
Appreciate that. And there's obviously a lot of conversations we've had, including this week, about how to fund our infrastructure, including not just schools, but transportation. And we have a work group coming up. There's Annapolis, there's action in Annapolis. So glad you flagged it, but we're going to be happy that there's alignment this year, and then we're going to move forward next year with the process that we have. But thank you for giving that update. Mr. Luchenko?
Yeah, just moving on briefly about state aid for school construction. And it is really two different charts here, looking at it in different ways. The chart at the bottom is the school's formal request for state aid for FY26. And most of what you see there are HVAC and roof projects where we do get a pretty good 50-50 cost share. Now, the chart above shows the approved assumptions for state aid by fiscal year. That is broken out based on the projects that are either approved for state aid or projects that are in the CIP that we assume are eligible for state aid, and we make assumptions going forward for how much we can reasonably expect to get for them. And then we do have some flexibility to move it within years, because construction projects are going to be 2 or 3 years at least for these projects. So that gives us some flexibility in the CIP where there may be bond, geo bond shortages. We can try to mix and match a little bit. Now, what you see is a significant drop in state aid in the CE's amended request. But once again, remember, we had a lot of the projects showing expenditures moving into FY24 that had previously been shown in 25 and 26. Well, a lot of that was state aid, too. So I don't want, we shouldn't make a lot of the change in the 6-year total. Once again, OMB is doing their due diligence to match up what's really happening on the ground. So we have these this bottom process going on. We will not find out at the state the final result there until, well, first we have sine die, which will determine what the overall pot is for the state in terms of traditional state aid. But then the Interagency Commission on School Construction will make its final decisions. They have interim decisions they make along the way, but it's not final until early May. So now we're going to get into the specific amendments, or in this case, a supplemental. The Burtonsville Elementary School is actually not an amendment this year because it's state aid and it's not a significant change in the scope of the project. So with this project, just to summarize it briefly, it started out as a renovation of the existing school, but the scope changed a couple of years ago to a relocation project, and you heard also that the existing facility site will be reused, beneficially reused for county purpose. But it would be moving a couple miles southeast of the current site. The completion date is August 2026. We've noted that it has not, the reason why this project was created in the first place was because the existing school was old and had not really been significantly touched in many years. It also does have, it's a class size reduction school and has a very high farms rate. So getting back to some of those other numbers we talked about. So it was, widely supported by the council, moved forward. It did change into the relocation project. This year, all we're dealing with is a supplemental appropriation for the $1.3 million from the Maryland Energy Administration for the geothermal system and future solar photovoltaic system at the new site. So the county executive recommended approval of it. Staff recommends approval, and that we would then transmit this to the council for action shortly within the next week or two, whenever we can get it scheduled.
Well, I really appreciate that. I just leaned over to the district council member and said I cannot wait for the ribbon cutting in August of 2026 at this school. It'll be a big community celebration. So I want to turn to her for any comments before we move action on this supplemental.
Yeah, I'm just so excited. This is really great. So thank you to everybody who's been working in this room who's been working to make that happen, but also to the community, because they have been advocating for this for a decade. And I mean, this was an issue that I stumbled upon during my campaign and was one of the very first issues that I got to tackle in collaboration with the community there. And that community is very, very organized. That the PTA at that school is helping other schools to get their PTAs organized. And so it's really a beautiful thing that's happening out of that. And it's so wonderful to see that advocacy come to fruition here and in a way that only uses state aid. So I really appreciate that as well. But, this has been through so many different iterations, as Mr. Levchenko noted, and the community has been disappointed over the years time and time again, as it has been put into the CIP and taken out and put in and taken out and changed and all of this and that. And so the determination to finally make sure that they would not be disappointed this time this is a huge deal. So I just really want to give huge thanks again to the community for their continued perseverance, including parents whose kids are out of that school and they are still engaged in the fight. And also to the board and to MCPS admin and to Ms. McGuire, who have helped to make sure that all the pieces come together and stayed together, even in these tricky financial times. So much, much, much appreciation. Cannot wait for that ribbon cutting. I know that we have a groundbreaking date coming very, very soon. We've been in close touch with the project manager. So looking forward to passing this and to the next steps. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So without objection, we will move that supplemental forward.
Next up, in terms of the individual school projects, we have the Crown High School project, which we talked about a bit earlier. I'm not going to belabor the fact, but there's the board's requesting $20 million to basically complete the Phase 2 work. The project, for affordability reasons, there had been a Phase 2 added to the project. I think it was either last year or the year before. This would basically bring that work back into the main construction of the project. And we've noted what it would include, including the interior of the auditorium, some shelled classroom labs, and a build-out of the stadium with an artificial turf field. You've talked about some of those issues that we'll revisit later. So the executive, as noted earlier, was able to support this request because of the zero increase in the 6-year total for the CIP that the board submitted, and included this. There's a funding switch the executive is recommending, which is just a technical adjustment for our purposes, not something that substantially affects the project. And staff is supportive of the board recommendation and the executive's technical adjustment here.
Any comments from colleagues? Sounds good. Without objection.
Northwood High School, and I forgot to mention that Crown has an August 2027 completion date, as does the Northwood High School facility, and Woodward. Although Woodward is housing the Northwood students, it also still obviously has work going on that we've talked about.
We're excited about all the openings, by the way. We love you at Northwood and Woodward and Crown as well.
So in this case, the board is requesting an additional $5 million for an upgrade of some of the stadium amenities that we talked about earlier, and the executive and supports the board request, as does council staff.
Without objection.
And then, as we talked about with Woodward, similar story here. In this case, similar to Crown in a way, some work was pushed out for affordability reasons. That work is requested to be brought back into the current phase of the project. And we still obviously have the state aid issues we're working through, but on the expenditure side, you can see the requested increase here. And we also talked about the ongoing or newly ongoing boundary study, pretty comprehensive boundary study happening here with this project. So the executive and the board are in concurrence on this, and council staff is supportive.
Without objection, I'll take the point here since it's kind of between these slides. The auditorium issue, is there an update on where with the with that process of what you're thinking? I know there was some community dialogue. It was a big topic, as you'll remember, Dr. Taylor, last year and going into this year, just where we are with that.
So in general, and I think that this presents a great opportunity for us to rethink how we do projects overall, especially given the drama with state aid and whatnot when we phase out certain projects. It's almost like, do we want to buy things on installment or do we want to purchase things whole? And it really is in our best interest to plan, scope, and construct a project within one phase versus doing it how we have done in the past. And certainly we would have avoided a lot of the drama that we've experienced recently. As we conclude the Woodward project, it will have the auditorium build out. So I'll let Adnan elaborate on that. But this was an unwelcome lesson learned as part of how this was originally planned out and how it was executed, and moving forward, how we just need to have a different course.
Yeah, as far as the status, so I know there was the community also was asking about, because there's a black box space within the first phase of the project, and that completion was, tied into our second phase of the project, but that work has been completed. So the current students have a place for them to be able to, practice their productions and all of that. And obviously in this ask, we're gonna, have the permanent auditorium or the big auditorium space finished.
For the opening in 27, right? And obviously people wanted it sooner, but this is where we are. And like you said, lessons learned of how we do this going forward, managing what the community needs and expectations. So All right, I appreciate that. Just, that's where we've been and where we are, but just wanted to bring it up. Yeah. Without objection, we'll approve that.
All right. I'll turn to Doug here to walk us through the county-wides.
Thank you. Mr. Mamoon already hit a number of the highlights on these slides, so I'll just remind you of what is happening with each. So for the building modifications and improvements, there is a $4 million reduction for FY26. There is the maintenance of the same amount beyond that, and this is recommended by the county executive, and council staff also recommends.
Without objection.
I will note, this is one of the projects last year where we affirmed the level of effort in the out years, which had previously shown $0. So
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I should toot our own horn here. Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So even though we're seeing a strategic cut as part of the overall board request this year, overall the project is in much better shape than it was a couple years ago.
And again, a part of the committee and the council's adoption of our approach to focus on these systemics and modifications. And we hear constantly from students and families about the need for these. So thank you. Next, we'll move to the next one.
So the next is the early childhood centers, and as Mr. Mamoon noted, there is a significant reduction for this year, contingent on planning for a comprehensive program. I'll add that the legislation that's going through being considered in Annapolis right now, as well as additional guidelines from MSDE and the AIB, will have an impact on that. So again, the county executive recommends, and the council concurs.
Without objection.
And HVAC, there is an increase of $4.5 million to fund the additional project at Loiterman, mostly offset by state aid, so not a lot of changes here. Council executive recommends, and the council staff concurs recommendation.
Without objection.
And sustainability initiatives, a decrease to fund other projects for FY26, looking outwards. I think this is something that the council will probably, and the school system will probably want to consider again in the future, but for now, county executive recommends, and council staff concurs.
Without objection, and just if we could go back to the early childhood, Council Member Mink has just a question or comment about that.
Thanks. I know that as indicated here, that there's still some strategic planning going on around this, but could you just speak a little bit to what you all are thinking about as you approach the early childhood plan? Obviously, this is something that the community cares a lot about, and it's a partnership with MCPS and the county, but.
Well, as a K-12 guy, I am pressed to tell you that the best money spent in public education is actually in pre-K because of what it does for the foundational work that we do. That being said, it is a little bit of a balancing act in terms of how we create that perfect mix of public and private pre-K options for our kids and for our families. And looking at this through the whole picture lens, we are able to capture some capacity in some areas with the Burtonsville relocation. And I think what this really calls upon us is to take a step back for a hot second and to look at what our whole countywide approach can really look like. Because what we've been doing right now is adding little pockets here and there. And what we would really like to do is have something a little bit more comprehensive before we bring it back to the council. Council staff has done a really great job of kind of laying out for you that there are some things that, like sustainability, like early childhood centers, that we will definitely revisit in future CIPs. But this does give us an opportunity to look at kind of the bigger picture versus just adding a pocket here or a pocket here, because candidly, where we might add capacity might not necessarily align with need, and we want to make sure that we're doing a better job of that.
Well, I do love hearing about data and strategy being used to implement a real plan for accommodating the community in terms of what's really going to be needed for early childhood. That's really important and obvious, and something that's being tackled in multiple ways on the county side as well. And I know that you all are working together and will hopefully continue to work together in an ever more strategic way. And this is one, obviously, that we're going to have to keep an eye on, because I think it makes sense to not allocate those funds now, and we don't necessarily know where they're going, but we know that there's a fiscal impact coming to the county as a whole for this, some of it in MCPS and some of it outside. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's continue.
We did this one.
Yeah. So the next one is the major county capital projects in elementary. A note, again, as Mr. Moon noted, that there is a reduction of $3 million each to 4 different projects, pending finalization of the plan and developing more specific cost estimates. Technical adjustment of $25.3 million of expenditures being moved to FY24 that will not affect those projects at all. Again, the county executive recommends and council staff concurs.
Without objection.
And last one, major capital projects for secondary. No major changes here aside from a technical adjustment of $40 million being moved from current spending to FY24, reflecting actual expenditures. County executive recommends and council staff concurs.
Without objection.
And just to note, with both these projects, we're in sort of a wave where the initial set of projects are concluding or close to concluding, and then you see a bit of a gap in 27 and 28 for both elementary and secondary, and then you start to see project costs again. So this gets at, what we'll be looking at next year. What is the right timing for those projects? What are the capacity issues, given the very strange enrollment patterns countywide we're seeing? So this is a major driver of the CIP when you are moving into these new projects. A high school major capital project could be $150 million or more. So these are big chunks of the CIP. We happen to, last year, as we talked about, we pushed some of those out. That's why you see some of those middle years. That does give us a little breathing room to talk about it, talk about what we want to do next year.
Well, I think I'm really pleased about where we are, and now we have the leadership team in on the board and MCPS, and now you're on board, and so I think next year there'll be a lot to discuss, but we'll have a lot of information with which to make those decisions. The boundary study, the process that you're going through internally to look at need, the racial equity lens. So, thank you for bringing that up. And I think while there are always going to be difficult decisions, it's nice in an off year to not have difficult decisions this year. So, really appreciate that. Councilmember Mink.
And just building one additional step on top of that, I would just note that this is really, as has been noted, this is like newsworthy, right? The fact that we're not having to deal with non-recommended reductions here, and it really does show the effort that has been gone into to find savings where possible, to really be strategic. Everybody's not going to be the happiest they could possibly be with what comes out, but there is the making of difficult decisions happening to serve the public as best as possible and to deal with what's a difficult budget year. And I think that it's important to make sure that we're really highlighting that before we go into the operating budget decisions, because this is the same body, right, that is doing that work, and the approach is clear from the evidence that we have here. Operating budget is going to be difficult because there are needs that have not been addressed in the way that they truly have to. And so being able to see this, I think, is truly good, hard evidence of the good faith and strategic effort that is being put in on the budget side. And I think it's important that, the public, our colleagues, everybody is very, very much aware of that as we go into those difficult, or continue with those difficult operating budget conversations.
Absolutely, and I'll be sure to, when I do my report at full council, I'll be sure to emphasize that. But no, anything else, Mr. Levchenko?
No, not today. Like I said, Burtonsville will be coming back as soon as we can get it scheduled with our clerk. The other items, we're probably looking at trying to bring the CIP in general back to the council in the late March timeframe before we get hit hard by operating budget.
Yep.
So the council will have a chance to at least have an initial review of the CIP, including MCPS as well as outside of MCPS.
That sounds good, and I know we've got a couple more sessions marked in the E&C for anything left over for CIP. Thank you, Mr. Prouty. Thank you, Mr. Levchenko. Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Thank you, Mr. Mahmood. Thank you for being here and the team. With that, we are adjourned.